the place where singles shine, celebrating life, divine by design. Faith and love, we intertwine. Route 77 with your journey's prime.
Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. Today we're asking a thought-provoking question. What if you knew you'd be single for the rest of your life? Together we'll explore how this question can shape your faith, your plans, and your purpose. So grab your coffee, tea, or maybe just settle in for some heartfelt conversation. Let's get started. Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. I am your host, Natasha, and I am here with Monique.
Hello.
And no David today, but that's okay. We can talk enough for all three of us.
Yes, we can.
We just had our Christmas holidays and New Year's. Things went well. I think we had a bit of a break from Taekwondo and we were able to rest. And
Now it's
a lot of sitting on the couch for me.
a lot of lounging around watching TV for me.
Yeah, playing video games for me. Just, it doesn't happen often that I can do that much of nothing.
Right?
So
Yep.
it's not my everyday.
Yep.
Now I'm back to both jobs and school, so I won't have much video gaming time.
No, it's back to the work thing and all that good stuff.
Plus, Taekwondo has like their biggest event of the year, March 1st. So lots of stuff to be thinking about rather than
The apologetics conference is coming
an
up.
apologetic conference on the weekend. So
I wonder if people ask them if they could you like maybe have it one weekend after? Because everything is on the first weekend of March.
well, I think too, just like the first is the first Saturday, and it's very like soon into March. So maybe they can use the next one after that.
Yeah, probably. Which works out much better for you specifically.
In theory, but like actually it's belt testing day. But I was told that I can still go to the conference because they know that I really wanted to go to that.
Why is belt
And
testing day
it's
so early in the month?
because of March break for the kids. It's only a 3-week cycle the next after the February test instead of 4. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that either, but that was the reasoning because then there's March break and all the parents are away or kids are away and it's harder to have a belt testing.
But they said you can go to the... Okay.
Yeah, I can miss that one.
You're being excused.
So I was so happy because it wasn't the same day as like the gala. And I was so excited. And then when we're like, oh, and that's the day. And I'm like, and I thought I missed her. And I'm like, that can't be right. And then I went to ask Master Jose later. And I was like, is it really that day? And he's like, yeah, because of March. I'm like, oh. And he was like, no, it's okay. Go to that. I'm like, okay.
Because
you missed. It looked really good.
You've missed
I missed last year.
And the year before.
It was just too much.
Yeah.
I missed a lot because of everything and just different things happening. So it was just
And the funny thing is that you keep buying the tickets.
I buy the tickets and then
I'm the one that goes.
Yeah, you guys really go. Well, last year I bought the tickets and I was hoping to go in the morning, but then I had said yes to another thing that I would give a talk at, and it was in the morning. And so I did the talk, and then I came to the apologetics conference hoping to at least hear one speaker. But they were on their lunch break, so we paid for lunch. Then I paid for some merchandise and books, and then I left. So I paid money to go, to pay money to leave. I'm not a very good business person, apparently.
You almost sound like our government.
Pay money to...
I didn't say that out loud. Today was actually a pretty big day because our infamous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has actually announced that he is going to be resigning from his position as soon as a new member has been voted in.
As the head of the Liberal Party.
Yes. Yeah. So they're supposed to be going back on the 24th of March, where he will give a throne speech, which will bring on the no confidence votes. And I'm being told by many of the other party members, not myself personally, but they are saying that they will all be voting no confidence. And so we should hopefully be heading for an election
in the summer sometime.
Yep. Yeah. I think it takes about 60 or 90 days. It's not like it's going to make that big of a difference because we would have gone in October anyway. So we're maybe 2 months earlier.
We'll see how that works
We'll
out.
see how that works out.
Today's topic, what would you, we've already asked this question of ourselves and come to terms with this question, but you as a listener, what if you knew today that you were going to be single until the day that you died or the day that the Lord came back? What would you do with that information?
Have you really given
How would
it
it,
seriously, literally sat down and thought to yourself, what if I never get married or get married again if you have already been married?
yeah.
What if this is my life from now on until I die?
And we've referred to this sometimes in episodes,
Mhm.
but I think it's something that we need to really, really think about and grapple with because it's something I avoided thinking about.
Uh-huh.
If you thought about it, then it might be true or it might come true. It's one of those things like if I just don't think about it, it won't happen. Like some sort of superstition in a sense. But it's true. It's something like I had mentioned to Monique, like my ex, when I said to him, what if God never wants you to be a millionaire? Because he always wanted to be a millionaire. And he would say, I rebuke that in Jesus' name because you're trying to lay this sort of curse on me, which I think is a bunch of hooey, not curses in general. I think that you can curse people in a sense of like
Yeah.
spiritual, but that's a whole other topic, whatever. I just mean that by saying, asking a question is not trying to curse someone or doom them or pray it into existence like that.
That's all part of the prosperity gospel, that kind of attitude,
Yeah.
because I had gone to a church with a friend that was very much like that. And their saying, that the cliche that they always turned to was that you called into being that which you want. So you call the golden out. You don't call in the curse, you call in the gold. So
Yeah.
that would be like, I am rich. I have a nice house. I have a nice car. I have a happy married life. You say all those positive affirmation. Yeah. Ask me how that worked for me.
Yeah.
I left the church.
Yeah. I wish my bank account would have been bigger,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whatever.
Makes
But I
sense.
think a lot of times we avoid actually honestly asking ourselves that question because by actually dwelling on it and maybe coming up with a solution and a sense of life plan that doesn't include marriage is somehow a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Uh-huh.
By acting in a way or making plans in a way that don't include marriage because we can't, anyway, we'll somehow like make it happen that way. And we don't want that so bad that we avoid thinking about it. And we even might be okay in a sense
Uh-huh.
with being single at the moment, but but you're also won't actually consider it as a long-term thing. You're just like, I just have to get through it now and I can be active and everything now, but eventually it's going to, it's like we can endure anything for for a limited amount of time. I can be single. I can endure my singleness. But it'll change eventually. And then
I have my own companion. He's sitting on the dog food bucket right beside me, and he's watching you talk. It's quite cute. He's just sitting
he's
there.
probably wondering why like we're watching here and I'm in the other room. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
They're weird.
We've got our own little companions. On this topic, I've always had that when I was living. It's easier actually to have those kind of thoughts for yourself when you are living alone, all by yourself, with nobody in the house with you. I find it now, since we're going into our 5th year in the house as housemates, I'm finding those thoughts not becoming anything anymore. Like I don't even have them anymore. I don't think about what would it be like. What if, because we're not living alone anymore. But when I was in my condo all by myself, I had those thoughts quite frequently where I would just sit there and ask myself, after being in my own space, having my own things, having my house set up the way I like it, and thinking about bringing somebody else into my life and what that would be like. And do I really want that? Do I really want to share all of this with somebody? Granted, I've been married before and I have a child. That may negate me from that kind of conversation that other people, yeah, but you don't know what it's really like to be all alone without ever having anybody. But I did have the one time where I had to think about whether or not I ever wanted to have more kids. And that was a very serious conversation I had to have with myself because I had to undergo a surgery because I had female issues and I had to have my uterus taken out. And when you have that taken out, excuse me, pardon me, pardon me. Thank you very much. Sorry for that interruption. The doctor told me that if I wanted to have another child, we could work on that before the operation. So I could technically have a pregnancy first and then have the operation. So I had to sit there for that first year and ask myself the hard question about whether I wanted to have another child. Even though I had nobody in my life, it would have to be in vitro. Is this something that I wanted? And is that something that I wanted to work toward? Or is that something that's just not a viable option anymore? And I really had to think about that really strongly because I wanted to be a mom. I was still young. I was probably 42. So I was younger than you are now. Yeah.
Sometimes these are hard questions to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think it's one that we need to, as a single person, you have to actually ask it. Ask yourself, what if this relationship status is permanent?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to remember that by asking yourself, by honestly reflecting it, and by saying those words, you are not prophesying over your life.
No.
You're actually asking yourself an honest question that deserves an answer. We have to remember that singleness, it may not be temporary. Like, we may end up back into singleness. We may even get married. And for whatever reason, end up back in singleness through divorce, through death. These things happen. So I think it happens a lot more than people think about it. They actually see a lot of people, they'll get married and they're like, finally, I got married. This is the way it is. And they don't actually think about the fact that this could change in the future. So it could be, like I said, divorce or death. You don't know an illness that could come by. And you could think that you have many years with a person.
Yeah.
And you actually only have very few.
Yeah.
Look at Anna in the Bible. She was married for only 7 years. And she's the one who was waiting for Jesus, waiting to meet Jesus. God had said to her that she would meet Jesus as a baby, like when she met him as a baby. But it says there that she was married as a young woman, probably very young, and she was widowed within, I think, 7 years. But then she was very elderly by the time she met Jesus. And she spent, I'm sure when she got married, she did not think that she would spend
the rest of her life single.
Like more of her life single than married after that point. So you don't know. But again, you can still live a fulfilled life. But I think it's good to ask yourself that question because it can help you to in your life where it is now. Make long-term plans.
I will be right back.
So don't be afraid to make long-term plans. Don't be afraid to really look at your life and see where you're at.
Having a cat is like having a 3-year-old. Don't touch that. Keep your hands out of there. Get out of that. Stop it. I don't need kids. Cut it out, weirdo. Fun times, fun times. It's a good thing he's cute. That's all I got to say.
So make a long-term plan. Think about your long-term plan for your life as if you're going to be single for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Will that change how you're living in this moment?
Yeah. And our life, like you were saying earlier, our lives are fragile. Anna being one who was forever single, but look what happened to Naomi and her daughters, or her daughters-in-law. Both of them without children, husbands gone. And then she had to, her husband and then her sons. That's, what about Job? Want to talk about disaster. He lost everything except his wife. Who actually cursed at him and said, you should just curse God and die. His legs. On a serious note, I have had one in particular. I wasn't familiar with his wife, but I was more familiar with him because he was one of my youth children because I was a youth leader for a while. when he had gotten married, he had a young wife and young kids. Like his youngest daughter was still a baby, and he was in a horrible traffic accident not too far away from where we live. And it was a head-on collision, and he perished in that accident. So that left his wife with two little kids to take care of. Now, thankfully, he had friends who helped, and she did eventually get remarried. But these aren't guarantees at all, because we have another friend who is the same age as my daughter, who has 3 sons, but she's a single mom.
You don't know.
You don't know.
And even if you've never been married,
Yeah.
even if you've never been married, you don't know. One of the ones I want to talk about, a good Christian man, is John Stott.
Mm.
And he was a lifelong single, but it was never his plan. I don't think he went about going, I have the gift of singleness, I'm just going to be single forever.
Yep.
He just went about his life, and it just happened that he never got married because he was busy doing what God wanted him to do, and it just didn't happen. And it wasn't, but I think that he lived a healthy single life. He saw his life as single, married. Well, they matter in a sense. They don't really matter to following God. So you're following God in the moment. So you're not married wishing you're single, or single wishing you're married. But actually just saying, okay, I am where I am. This may or may not change. So what are my plans for now?
Mhm.
So planning term.
Yep.
And I think that I never planned long term. Like I was always like, I just need to do this till I get married. Like it was so short term. It was so just like what I'm doing today.
Yep.
Today. And I didn't make any sort of long-term plans. And I do talk about like where we need to live more today, because a lot of people don't live for the moment in a sense. They always live but they always live as if they're like waiting for that other thing to before they can actually really live.
Yeah.
But sometimes we live so much in our day to day waiting for that change that we don't actually pursue God's calling in whatever direction. And so I'm trying to get my master's degree. So that's part of it. So that's a long-term thing, because I'm only able to do between 1 and 3 courses a year, only being one at the last couple of years. So it's a long-term thing. But before I would have said, I can't commit to that, because what if I get married and then I won't have the money for that, or I'll have kids and I won't have time for that. So I wouldn't actually have committed to doing that long-term plan, getting my master's. I didn't commit to any sort of work goals. I didn't say I want to be this, so I'm going to work my way up the ladder and get to that point or whatever. I was just like, okay, what can I do at this moment that will get me through until I get married? So there was no occupational goals. There was no long-term church goals in the sense I'll be a Sunday school teacher for now, but but I'm going to get married and have kids. I'm not going to plan any sort of long-term anything within the church or what God's calling me to do. It's all just busy work in a sense, because all I was trying to do was fill in the moments until I got married.
Mhm. I never really planned for a life without a person in my life. I just lived. Went to work, went to church, came home, did church stuff. I think it wasn't until the 2000s, or was it before that? Maybe it was before that, where my mom said, "That's it. I'm sending you on a vacation." And she sent me to my cousin in Holland for a couple of weeks, bought me plane ticket. I couldn't have afforded it myself. See the price of plane tickets overseas? Oh my word.
Seen the price of plane tickets in Canada. So
craziness. Yeah. So that was my first actual trip that I took outside of Canada to go visit family. And what took me so long? And then I think a couple of years later, I went again, but that time I paid for myself and went with my cousins, and we did a tour of Scotland and England, and that was fun. And then we went to Korea. Again, I had to pay for we put these things on hold. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the things in your single life. No, I don't want to do that. I want to wait until I get married.
yeah, something to do with my husband,
Yeah.
my kids.
You gotta have a bestie and do things with your best.
They say that people visit museums 3 times in their life, like the same museum essentially. Once as a student, once as a parent, and once as a grandparent. So if you never get married,
You will never see that unless you were
you
there.
never really go back to it unless you actually make the plan to be like, hey, I'm not going to just sit here, wait till I have kids to go to the science museum or whatever, just as an example.
Oh.
Because I'm just saying it as interesting because people don't think, let's go do this. Let's go do this. Let's actually be active and be like, hey, we can go with friends, or hey, I can go by myself. It's not difficulty actually to do some things by yourself.
Well, we have a plan that I hope we can do before I need a wheelchair or a walker. The Creation Museum. I've seen pictures and I know other friends who have gone, and I'm just like, I want to go and see that. I want to see.
My brother has been.
See, this is
I know.
wrong. We gotta go. And the funny thing is that my girlfriend Michelle, that I grew up with, and my cousin Patty have both expressed interest in going as well. Neither of them are church girls, but they want to go. They want to go on this road trip. They want to go see this museum because it sounds really cool. Yeah, it does.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's just, I just look at my 20s and I know I say like I did waste a lot, but like I said in the beginning, like almost if I admitted and planned for not being married, then that would be a self-fulfilling prophecy and I wouldn't get married.
Yeah.
And it's almost subconscious in a way. It's you just avoid thinking about it. You don't usually think about it in those direct terms.
Oh, yes, you do. I did.
Oh yeah.
I actually did. I said there going, what if I never meet anybody? What if I'm single forever? Wait, I can't say that because what if it happens? I've always had that. There's 2 ways of thinking. No, actually, I probably did. There's like the glass half full, the glass half empty thing. I always found that if I thought that something good was going to happen, it never did. But if I thought that maybe this is going to be a bad thing and the bad thing is going to happen, it never did. It was always the good thing. So if I thought that I was never going to get married, I'm never going to meet anybody, maybe then I actually will. Backwardly.
How'd that work out for you?
I'm still single. It didn't work out.
But I just find like after, yeah, same here.
Weird.
Avoiding it subconsciously, avoiding it didn't help either.
Yeah.
But I think like once I came to the idea, once I got out of the marriage I was in that was abusive and was not good, and I actually came to the idea that like I can live my life as if I were going to be single for the rest of it. And if it changes, usually these things happen like organically in the moment. Like it's not like all of a sudden, like we joking about knock like on the door, let's get married.
What about that?
Gonna happen.
What about that story we read the other day where this woman, she was at this conference or something,
Yeah.
and God told her, that's the man you're going to marry. Go and propose to him. So she did, and they got married. That has to be a lie.
Well, or very rarely would be the norm. I wouldn't say that's what you're waiting for.
Right.
If the spirit moves you, then maybe, but generally that's not the rule. That's the exception, I think.
Yeah.
So even if you make your 50-year plan of being single and somebody comes into that, nobody says that these are in stone.
No.
Things will change. Priorities change. Even if you're single for 50 years, your priorities can change in that time.
Mhm.
Circumstances, interests, whatever comes along. Like, but if you actually plan it out in a sense of, hey, what if for the rest of my life, so maybe even say 30, 40, 50 years, depending on your age, or 60 or more, who knows how old you are, and be like, you may not have a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 40-year, 50-year plan, but actually
I have
forward.
a one-day plan.
Right.
I just want to get through it.
And my plans for the future are not so set in gold, like stone. They're not even fully fleshed out.
No.
But my plan right now is to finish my master's, to pursue managing the Taekwondo school, to pursue this Group 77 ministries, and bring it where God wants it to go. So like one step at a time. But it's not until I get married. But then everything changes.
Yeah.
For as far as I know, this is the direction that this road is going. and I'm happy to be on it.
Yeah. My plans are a little bit more homebound, like getting the deck railings fixed and getting that garden fixed and getting more this fixed and getting kitchen cupboards changed and getting the bathroom changed from a bathtub to a shower. I've got those kind of
But even if you
plans.
think about it, like you know me, I don't really care about, not in a sense of you don't have to have big, deep discussions with me about changing it to whatever color. And I'll just be like, yeah, it sounds great. Not that I don't care. I have a heart. I think you do a good job. Anyway, but what I mean is, but
We
you
grew
don't
up on
have
a
to be like,
farm.
oh, yeah. I'm just like, not
The house was just where you slept because the rest of your time was spent outside with the animals.
Yeah, I'm not super. Anyway, but what I mean is, like, we do talk about some things, but generally, I just leave
Although
those
you
type of
build
things
a
up
lot
to
on
her.
Disney,
Yes,
Dream
on
Valley.
the Disney game,
Yeah.
Disney Dreamlight Valley. Yeah, I like to decorate on there.
And
That's
you show me all these wonderful, and I'm going, why can you not make those decorations take from there
happen here.
and happen here? Because that would be cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Look at what you did to that garden. Can you do it out there?
Is that right?
No, that's my job.
But what I mean is, you can see this,
No.
and we bought a house without we're not married to each other. We keep saying that, but we're single people. We bought a house. We didn't wait till we were married. We're looking at changing things within our house, but we're not waiting until we get married and have a husband to talk it over with. You don't have to wait. So you don't have to just put your life on hold or not plan to buy a house. Yeah, it's hard in this day and age. It's hard. I'm not saying that you're going to be able to afford one, but don't just say, oh, I wish I could buy a house, but I have to wait till I'm married. I did that about a new bed. My child brain saw my parents buy a bed, and I had a really old bed, really old. And I thought in my child brain, when I'm married, I get to buy a new bed. Super excited. And my parents still have that same bed that they bought when I was a child. Really, it's very old, but my brain said you have to be married to get a new bed.
And this might be
And so,
why your home decorating thing is so not there, because I don't think it was in your family growing up. It was just not a priority.
my mom likes to decorate. She has the gene.
Oh, does she?
She's very good at it.
Okay.
But I just think because it was always my parents' home, and I would maybe do that if I was married and had kids. Maybe that's the idea. I don't know. I'm not super into decorating, but it was like my parents' home. So they did their thing. And I never thought in my head, one day I'll get regardless if I get married or not, I'm going to get a house and then I'll be able to do this. And I'll be like, I never thought that ever. It was always you get married, then you can buy a house together, then you can do, and you limit yourself because you're just like, wait a second, you don't have to be married to buy a house.
No, but you
I
need
mean, it
money.
helps financially. You need money, but you don't have to be married. You don't have to be married to buy the car that you like. You don't have to be married to do X unless it's
Go on
have
vacation.
kids and, but yeah, go visit a certain space or experience so many different things. You don't have to wait until you're married. So that's why I'm asking you guys to ask your question to yourself. What if I knew today that I was never getting married?
How would that
Like,
change
how would that
how I live my
change
life?
what you're doing?
Yeah.
Can you all of a sudden go, at least you would know at that point, right? Whew, at least I know I'm not getting married. Then you can make plans. Why? Why is that important? Just make those plans.
Yep.
What's God calling you to do in the moment? And some of it might just be enjoyment factor. God's allowing you to enjoy whatever it is. It doesn't have to always be like deeply spiritual, but also what is deeply spiritual and God calling you to do in the moment. Don't forget that, but it's not only that. So yeah. Hey, I always wanted to visit Scotland. Scotland's one place I would really like to visit because it's my cultural background. But
I've been there.
I don't have money. I don't have I don't have the money to go. I don't have to wait for some magical relationship status to do it. I didn't do my master's before because I didn't see a point. I was going to be a wife and a mom, a homemaker, a homeschooling mom. I didn't need to pursue any sort of career. And yet I love what I'm doing now, teaching Taekwondo. I could have been pursuing that all along or something to that effect. And then if I got married that's a conversation to have at a different time, whether I keep it up or whatever. But by actually embracing the fact that you're single and being like, hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? What's God calling me to do with my life? What needs to be done in my life? All these questions, you can ask it. You don't have to wait for some magical change in your relationship status where you always have permission to do all these things.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we get a little too hung up on that. I know I definitely didn't think a lot about my future in the sense of like, how do I live my everyday life now?
Yep. I remember when I bought the condo, and the reason I bought the condo was that my brother and his wife had just bought their second house. And I was sitting there thinking, my brother is younger than me, married with kids, and he just bought his second house. I haven't even bought my first. So it was like, how on earth how is that possible? I should be able to afford to buy something on my own. Like, I could wait till I get married, but that's not on there is no prospects. And it wasn't on the horizon. And I'd just gotten out of a really bad thing with my ex, my late husband ex. He was my ex. Then we were married for a month.
You don't want to say ex late husband because that means he resurrected.
He did do profession of faith 2 months, the month before he died. And I believe that he is probably it's not my judgment. That was his heart. I believe that was true for him. So I'm going to, yeah. And that's the funny thing when it comes to these kind of things, and people will, how is that just? Jesus died on the cross for him just as much as he died for me. It's all just. But anyways, I digress. So I actually went and sat down with a broker and said, do I even have, I just want to know if I am even in the market, that I can even be in the market to buy something. And she ran over my finances and said, yeah, this is what you can afford. And I'm going, shut the front door. Literally. Like, there's a front door, go shut it. No, I'm kidding. So I got myself a realtor and looked at a few condos and went, no, not this one. And then I found, I want that one. Can I find one in that one? He says, yeah. So we went and looked. I went, this is the one. And that's the one. And that's where I moved. And I lived in that place from 2006 until we bought this house in 2020.
And if you hadn't come to the terms and said, in a sense, it doesn't matter that I'm not married. I'm going to see what I can do.
Yeah. What?
You don't know what you can do until you look.
No. Why should I be giving my money to somebody else when I should be investing in my own life, my own future? And whether I get married or not is irrelevant. I should be able to afford something. Yeah. And I know that, like, nowadays the housing market is really horrible.
It's a lot harder.
It is.
But in a sense, like, you had to change your thinking.
I had to change my thinking.
No, wait a second. Yeah. Because before that, it might have been just like me, waiting for you to get into that relationship. Then you can do these things.
Yeah. And that's really what I was waiting for. It's like, I'll get married, then I can have that house with the picket fence and the kids and the dogs and the cats. I have the house. It's not a picket fence, but it is a fence. There's a dog and the cats. And we're childish enough for a bunch of kids. So.
Yeah. And we're around kids. I'm around kids all the time.
You are. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, it's weird, like, not weird. God's just laughing up there because he says, this is what I was talking about. So just like this. Anyway, I like that when you think about I know the plans I have for you, and he's talking to Jeremiah. Like, Jeremiah's sitting there, I don't know. I think about it. Jeremiah bought land in the land that he knew they were going to get dragged off from. So he was like, he didn't go, when I get back here, I'm going to buy this land. He like bought the land before they went into captivity. So God saying, I know the plans I have for you, Jeremiah, and Israel.
Yeah.
And so he knew, so he trusted him in the hope that he had for him. Yeah. So to actually look at him saying and Jeremiah took him at his word and didn't say, once I get back, then we'll start doing stuff. But he started doing stuff at that moment. I think we need to look at it like that and be like, God does know the plans he has for us. And we're reading this book. I think it's called Confessions of a Christian Spinster.
Yes.
And she basically, this one was saying, like, what is the reason I'm single? And she says, it's God's fault. And she was doing that kind of tongue in cheek, saying it was God's fault.
Yeah. It's
But
God's
essentially,
fault
like,
that he put me in the family I was.
yeah, and like all the situations that came around, it hasn't brought a person right to me. Because yes, God's in control of that. Like, as much as we try to do things by going on dating sites and we try to do whatever it is we do to find a spouse or a significant other, there's only so much we have control of that.
Yeah.
Like I say, yes, do the things that you can do in the sense of yourself presentable, working hard at your job so that you look like, so that you actually are, like, you're a hard worker, you have good work ethic, you're the type of person with integrity, like all these things that you can do that would make you beneficial as a relationship partner. But but that's all you can do.
Mhm.
You can't manufacture a husband or a wife.
Mm-mm.
So instead of just being like, okay, God, the plans you have for me right now, my job is to live right now, but also for the future.
Yeah.
Understanding that this is not the end, the be all and end all. The heaven is the be all and end all, but the journey that we're called to in this life is also important. So instead of sitting on the side of the road, hitchhiking on the married lane, trying to find a person, because hitchhiking never goes bad.
Nope. Never does.
Sit on your singles road and like be like, okay, I'm heading towards heaven. And if at some point you take the detour onto the married lane, so be it. But if you don't, you got to like actually drive it, live it,
Yeah.
do it.
Yep.
Don't just say now, today, looking down until I get to that other place over there.
Yeah. Because you never know where the route's going to take you. You mentioned John Stott earlier. And I'm trying to like, which quote do I like better? And I think this first one, his is on using singleness for God's glory. And I think I like that one. The other ones are good too, though. But I think I like this one. It says single people must not allow themselves to be bombarded by the view that the ideal, or at least the normal, life is the married life. Jesus himself was single. His singleness, far from being seen as a deficiency to be remedied, was part of the perfection of his humanity. I like that. So singleness can be part of the perfection of your humanity.
Yes.
I like that.
And I think, like anything, we can corrupt it.
Yeah.
And I just see, what could I have done with my 20s and my 30s that would have been beneficial to God's kingdom, that would have been beneficial to me as a child of God, as a human person, if I had been able to see this truth 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And don't stop. This is the speaker to the listeners. Stop avoiding thinking about this question about if you are single for the rest of your life from this moment. What does that mean for you right now? Stop avoiding it. It's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not bringing down a curse on you. It's asking a deep question that can have painful
Implications.
yeah. But it can open up your mind and your heart and your soul
To greater things.
to fulfilling what God has called you to, being a complete person, a human person, a child of God. So you're complete in God. And so if you are avoiding that question, stop avoiding those deep thoughts, stop avoiding the pain that can come with admitting that the marriage might not be coming for you.
Yeah.
Because it can be painful. We've talked about on other podcasts about the death of dreams, the death of expectations.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. And you may end up shedding tears over it because it might be a scary place to walk in. You know what comes to mind when I think of that? Psalm 23. It may feel like you're walking in a dark valley to admit that this might be your life. God is there with you. He is not going to leave you. He's not going to forsake you. He's going to walk with you through that. He's going to comfort you. He's going to heal your broken heart. And greater things are coming.
He is the cause of your singleness. He's not surprised.
No.
You're
blaming him for it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm blaming him.
It's all your
Oh,
fault. God,
God.
it's all your fault. But it just may be. There may be such a thing that he has planned for you.
And he has a purpose. He has a plan. He has a calling in it. And by limiting ourselves, we can't fulfill that because we won't open ourselves up to it.
Yep. And don't
And I can't even explain like how freeing it is.
and I don't want you to think that it's going to be some grand, important, life-changing, world-changing plan. It might not be that big. It might just be something like what Natasha does, teaching kids and being a light to them.
Taekwondo.
Because how many times have parents or their children have asked you, what is this thing that you believe? What is this Christian
I've
thing?
had people come.
Many times.
Yep, I've had people ask. And the thing is, it just gives you I can't even describe the relief and the like, I don't know. I want to say it took a while. It takes time to get to contentment and satisfaction, things like that. But just actually, I know, unburdening yourself. You don't realize how burdened you are under the weight of these expectations you have on your life that don't necessarily follow with God.
Mhm.
And you actually like the Pilgrim's Progress when Christian, I know that's more about sin, but when the burden was taken off of his back,
A
it
relief.
is a burden because we've decided what we think is what best for our lives.
Yep.
And then we like angst over it not happening or not happening the way we expect it. And when you actually just get rid of that, yeah, like the relief that you have from that. And then all of a sudden the freedom to be like, wait a second, I can buy a house with a friend. I can start my master's, start a singles ministry. I can
Go on a trip
go on a trip.
to
I
Korea
can, yeah, to Korea or the Croatian Museum, whatever comes first.
or go
Um,
on a cruise because that's
I've always wanted to go on a
me
cruise,
too.
right?
Oh yeah.
But even I can have a career expectation, like work towards the career of having the managing the Taekwondo school.
Yep.
I can do all these things because before I limited myself to what I thought I had to just get by till I got this other thing that
Was so much
I
better.
thought, yeah. And it boggles my mind how, and I know part of it's youth, part of it's
A lot of things. Yeah. A lot of
but
growing up with certain thoughts and ideals that you think are the norm.
expectations and yeah, how
Expectations.
you're treat nature versus nurture and all those things.
Yeah.
But if we can even help any person to either come to to grips with that, regardless of their age, but especially if they're younger, if they don't have to spend decades under the weight of these things and they can actually break free of them, then what benefit that would have for not just you as an individual, but as for the kingdom of God. Satan wants nothing more than to keep you under these false expectations, telling you that you will not have joy
Yeah.
if you don't have this.
Yeah.
And how much are we not building the kingdom because we're following along these paths that one we do choose, but we're also listening to the tongue of the devil
Mhm.
because he'll take a good thing and think of it like you got your tuning dial on the radio
Yep.
and you don't need to turn it far, just a click. And all of a sudden,
You're not on the station
it,
anymore. Yeah.
it's
Or it's
not,
staticky.
yeah, it's not truth. It only has to be 1 degree off for it to no longer be truth.
Right.
And it seems like truth because it's very close.
Yeah.
No one quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, but it's not a duck,
It might be a cobra chicken.
maybe. But it's
You have to be Canadian to know what that is.
but it's like close enough to the truth. So you think that you're believing and wanting that is good and true, and in a certain light it is.
Yeah.
But if it's a burden that keeps you from following God's path for you, then that is
It's not a
not
good place.
a good
No.
thing.
Before we close, because we are getting to the end of our podcast, can I read one more? Because
Yep.
you were talking about something there about contentment and stuff like that. And I'm going, you actually posted another one of John Stott's sayings. And I'd like to read that one because it is about loneliness and contentment. And I think it might be helpful for those who are worried about that kind of thing. So loneliness is a painful reality for many single people, as it is for many married people. but there is no need for it to be paralyzing. For the lonely Christian, the remedy is neither marriage nor withdrawal into oneself, but rather developing a deeper intimacy with God and engaging in meaningful community. Amen. That's
Amen.
a good one. That's a good one. Thank you, John. Very good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ask yourself the hard question.
Because John Stott is a forever single, right?
Yes, he was forever single, not planned that way,
Yep.
but that's how it happened. Ask yourself the question, what if you knew today that you were going to be single for the rest of your life?
Yep.
What would that do? How would that change you right now? Ask yourself the hard question.
Yep. Don't be afraid to ask yourself that hard question. And you may have to pray about it.
And you usually have to work through these things.
Yeah.
Like
It's not going to be an instantaneous thing. No. I remember for myself when the epiphany came to me, I was sitting in my house, in my condo, and I just looked around. I don't know what made me just look around at my place and the stuff and the things that I'd done. Like I painted, I decorated, made it look homey kind of thing. And I'm just, I'm quite content. How did that happen?
I know one day, because I had gone through a lot of stuff, but all of a sudden one day I'm like, I might never be a mom or be married again. Okay. I could never have ever come to that mindset before that. Like all of a sudden, like I worked through this stuff. It was not an overnight thing, but I can tell you 100%, I love teaching Taekwondo with the kids, but I could never have done it with my mindset before.
Right.
Because all I focused on was that I was not a mom.
Right. So every time somebody came in with their babies.
Yeah. Kids or babies, it was always that I focused on that and what I didn't have. So by opening myself up to the fact that, to the option, to the possibility that forever, to the end of my days, I'll never be a mom. Okay. All of a sudden, I'm opening myself up to something that was like, that's something I love to do that I never thought I would do. I would be able, like, I never thought it was a possibility of doing. I'm a soccer player for many years. I did not think Taekwondo would be my calling, even though I did it at university and I came back to doing it. But God knew I had to get my brain around.
Yeah.
Get over myself a little bit and be like, yeah, I have it ready for you. Just in your own time.
Yep.
In your own time.
And they love you there at the studio. The kids and the parents.
Fun.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah.
They're all awesome. Every time if somebody leaves or quits, and I'm always like, that person.
No, don't stay. Sometimes they move.
Yeah, that happens. And sometimes the kids get interested in other things. And
Yep. Yeah.
comings and goings, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay, anyway.
But some stick around.
Some stick around for a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. And hopefully you're thinking about the hard questions and then you can let us know.
Yep.
Find us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and at route77.ca. Leave us a message.
Yep.
Rate, review, subscribe, all those wonderful things.
Yep.
And share our podcast with others.
Yep. Yeah. And don't forget to let us know because we have been this is what, episode 102, 103. Have we ever had anybody comment?
No, not yet. Not on those type of things. We've had people come up to us like in church, family and stuff like that and text me and stuff, but not actually
on yes. So this is where you can help us is by commenting on the video itself or on the podcast itself and click the thumbs up, click the subscribe button.
Looks like this.
It looks like this. Yeah. Because it's an algorithm and that will help bring us to the attention of somebody who may really need to hear this. So thank you for our friends and families and those who are listening. God bless you.
Thank you. And we'll see you all here next time.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Route 77 podcast. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to ask the tough questions and embrace the plans God has for your life, whether single, married, or somewhere in between. Don't forget to connect with us, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, or visit our website at route77.ca. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this podcast with someone who needs to hear this. Your feedback helps us reach others who may benefit from these conversations, so don't forget to hit the thumbs up and leave a review. It does make a difference. Thanks for listening. See you next week, and until then, remember to live your single life to its fullest.